Ho, 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 people and patrons of the night. It is your boy, the Horrorlander. And that's right, it's December. Christmas time is right around the corner. All of you guys are getting festive. You're waiting on that PS5 you've been asking 3 years straight for, waiting on Santa Claus's bitch ass to finally deliver that shit. You guys are all ready, bro. You got the Christmas music going. You got Home Alone playing in the background. And now you're like, oh my god, man, the Horrorlander is getting in that December spirit. He's going to be bringing on all these consistent Christmas horror stories. He's going to be covering all this content. We're going to be set. Man, fuck that. No, okay? Okay, it's not fuck that, but I'm just saying, I have a certain thing about doing what people tell me to do, all right? When people tell me that you can't review winter stories during the bright, sunny days of summer, I decide, man, fuck that, I want to do it. When it comes to Christmas time, December time, and people are thinking that I'm going to consistently cover that type of content, I have a thing against authority, man. I'm like, man, fuck that. I'm not going to give y'all consistent content. You can't tell me what to do. But that would be rude. So I decided, you know what? I am going to give you guys Christmas content, December content, but it's not going to be on a consistent basis. I'll give you enough that you can enjoy it during this, Christmas season, this festive season, but don't expect me to do nothing but that. Otherwise, I'm going to get burnt out and I'm not going to make content. So it is what it is. But nonetheless, today you are going to be getting something festive from me. And that's because I'm going to be covering a horror story which clearly from the title is Christmas based. Unfortunately, it came from a short story collection which was fucking doo-doo dog shit, all right? This short story collection was candy cane sprinkled reindeer shit that was left inside of your stocking with the Semtex grenade at the bottom of it. Happy holidays, bitches. Imagine you were just getting ready to go get a nice present for your partner. You walk in inside your bedroom and yo bitch is doing reverse cowgirl to old Saint Nicholas, bruh. Old Saint Nick finna give that old Saint Dick, you know what I'm saying? Watch out for your man, ladies, because just know that Krampus is out there with the gingerbread strap on giving them that business. That's what this short story collection was, man. It was awful. There were so many horrible short stories in there, and that's none other than Hark, the Herald Angels Scream by Blumhouse Publishing. That review/rant is on my YouTube channel. I'll link it in the comment section down below in a pinned comment if you want to see me roast it. But amongst those moldy, vile atrocities found in the back of a kitchen nightmare's closet.
Oh, shit. Look at the state of this. Dirty fuckers.
There were a couple Michelin star entrees amongst that, and this is one of them. The other one was the best Christmas story I ever read in my entire life, called The Hangman's Bride by Sarah Pinborough. I'll link that review down below as well in the comments. But today I'm talking about The Second Floor of the Christmas Hotel by none other than Joe R. Lansdale. So first let me tell you a little bit about the story and then start praising why you guys should check it out. Now, of course, the collection it comes from is dog shit, so I don't recommend you buy the book, but maybe ask for it on Christmas. Ask for it on a birthday. See if a family member or friend can gift you this book, Hark, the Herald Angels Scream, so that way you don't gotta pay for it and you can still enjoy the two best short stories from there, which are The Hangman's Bride and this one. The second floor of the Christmas Hotel opens up with the main character, who's an old man. He's 80 years old, and he's kind of reflecting on his life. He's got no kids, he's got no wife, he's got nobody to hold him down. He thought that was the right decision, but now he's feeling pretty lonely. And you get an opening monologue with him basically describing how he's a skeptic when it comes to supernatural events and paranormal activities. But he says that there are things in this world which oftentimes people can't end up explaining, all right? They're not as simple as the concepts of heaven and hell. Sometimes things get trapped within the limbo of the world, tied to our earthbound states because of these resentful emotions they may have, maybe unfortunate events. And sometimes those things in the state of limbo reach out. That is one hell of a way to open up a story, man. That monologue really sets the mood for this short story. This is going to get creepy, y'all. So the main character describes how he has a friend, kind of like an acquaintance named Robert. Now, Robert is not too close of a friend with him, but he's a guy that he knew since school. They've practiced similar business activities. Robert is essentially from a family of hotel owners. His family owns a bunch of different boutique, old school, classic hotels, and they've become very wealthy off of it. And Robert's job is to basically go around the country to the different boutique and old school hotels, check up on them, make sure they're running, and kind of make business decisions regarding them. So it's very strange that all of a sudden Robert ends up sending out an invitation letter to the main character, inviting him over for a Christmas Eve dinner, which right away the main character kind of seems a little bit hesitant on because, again, they're not that close of friends. Yes, they've attended Christmas parties together and events together with their families, but they've not been in contact for a long time, so he's not sure why he's getting this invitation and sees it as a little bit strange. Now, I don't know about you, but that guy is smart, bro. Listen, if somebody you don't really fuck with or know gives you a Christmas Eve dinner invitation, bro,
just know that you're gonna get stuffed in more than one way possible.
you know, that innuendo was supposed to be regarding taxidermy, like you get, like, killed and stuffed, but I just realized that that sounds a lot more sus than I intended. A lot more sexually charged. No diddy. But then again, this dude's getting invited to a Christmas party at a boutique hotel. That definitely sounds like some diddler activity, man. Hey, yo, I hope this guy watches out for his life, bruh. And for that virgin hole. So as the letter entails, this main character ends up getting invited by this Christmas Eve party. He ends up meeting up with Robert at this old hotel that he has down in the block. And they end up having dinner together. They end up catching up with each other. They reminisce on old different parties they went to and various different Christmas events. And all of a sudden, Robert brings up this very old boutique hotel that was off in like the middle of the woods, off of like a highway interstate that ended up getting taken down. And this hotel was one that often held very reserved parties. Very few people got in. But Robert and this main character ended up always going for Christmas parties with their families. They had great time. They had great food. The place would be decorated in all different types of ornaments, decorations, multicolored lights. They had a giant Christmas tree which went up to the second floor. And now, as they're reminiscing, they all of a sudden bring up this woman that the main character had a pleasure of meeting and sharing a mistletoe kiss with, who was just known as Amelia. She was a very beautiful woman, very seductive. They had a fantastic time at the party, and he ends up remembering her because Robert brings it up for a particular reason. And you end up finding out the reason, which is because shortly after, some years after the last party that the main character had attended with Robert at this hotel, Amelia would show up to these parties, but eventually she ended up going missing. And it was an urban legend suspected that she ended up actually drowning inside of the river behind the boutique hotel because she ended up getting way too drunk. And after the police and private investigators ended up finding her clothes there, they suspected she might have got too drunk. She ended up going skinny dipping, and that's why she was never found again. But some weird stuff started happening where every single year subsequent to her disappearance, people would end up renting a room 12 in the second floor of this Christmas hotel. And every time on Christmas Eve, everybody would vacate. For some unknown reason, they would be frightened, they would be scared, they would have some depressing experience that would cause them to basically flood out of the room. And this caused Robert to raise an eye, because every time that he would check on the room, nothing was wrong. There was nothing out of place, nothing strange, nothing weird. He could not understand for the life of him why these things were happening. So what ends up happening is then Robert decides he's going to end up staying a night on the second floor of this room 12. And when he ends up spending a night on Christmas Eve after one of their family parties finishes, he ends up basically trying to investigate the place. He sees if anything is wrong. He sees that the window ended up getting nailed down by some unknown individual. He doesn't know who may have done it, but it's shut in. He can't pull it up. And as he investigates, he doesn't find anything particularly out of the ordinary, so he ends up calling it a night and going to sleep. He then ends up waking up at some random point and finds out that the power and electricity is out. It is not working. And the curtain, which was previously closed, had been drawn in for some unknown reason by some unknown force. But the window is closed and bolted shut, so it couldn't have been a wind draft. So then he ends up getting a pen flashlight from his bag and ends up investigating the open closet because he has some fear, some unknown dread regarding it. And as he goes in there and checks it out and checks every place with his flashlight, he doesn't see anything. But when he puts his flashlight up, he sees on the top shelf of this closet what looks like to be a pair of eyes. Looking back at him. And of course he freaks out and jumps back. He's frightened. But then when he goes and tries to see if there's anything in there, he doesn't see anything. It's as if he was almost hallucinating. And he starts to suspect that maybe because he's paranoid, maybe because of the stories behind this room and the things that have happened, that maybe he's getting a little bit on the edge and he needs to calm his nerves. So he ends up going back into bed, but then some really, really, really weird stuff starts happening. All of a sudden, he hears what seems to be like this loud mass that drops from the top shelf and lands on the floor with a wet thud. And as he looks over, he sees what seems to be something in terms of a humanoid shape, but he describes the face as a white grub, a white maggot-like grub with a bunch of mashed human features where the face is supposed to be. And he smells this awful stench, what smells like dead fish and just wet seaweed all around. And next thing you know, he sees these long, bony, ripped up arms start crawling and pulling this grub-like entity towards the bed. And he starts to freak out. He doesn't know what the hell is going on, but he's so paralyzed with fear that he can't move. And all of a sudden, this decrepit hand all of a sudden reaches up from under the bed and grabs onto his blanket and starts to pull itself up. And he looks in the face of this horrifying, wet, slimy, decrepit corpse of a creature. And sees that as it looks at him, it then all of a sudden turns away its attention and goes towards the window, in which a force all of a sudden rips up the window, and this corpse-like entity ends up diving headfirst through it and crumples on the ground as it drops 2 floors down. Robert then ends up getting out of his paralysis state and goes up to the window to look down and sees this thing just crumpled and all broken up in many different places, but then sees itself start contorting, start getting up, and then start slowly crawling and walking and lurching towards the edge of the river, in which he can no longer see it as the moonlight fades out and he hears a loud splash in which he thinks the thing might have fallen in. This paranormal experience really left him unnerved, and he shares the story with Robert, and then thinks that he might instinctually believe that this ties to the beautiful woman from the party, Amelia's disappearance, because it was said that she might have went upstairs to the 2nd floor with 2 guys, and she was super drunk and wasn't in a right state of mind. They don't know what happened to her. When they investigated the men, they had nothing to say. And Robert actually ended up finding out who the 2 men were after some research and some digging in. The first guy ended up apparently committing suicide inside of his house by drowning himself in the bathtub. And it was a really weird experience because he was covered head to toe in a blanket and apparently had to forcefully drown himself down there with a note and with only 1 word on it that just said sorry. So it was a really, really ominous death, and I don't think it takes Blue's Clues to realize that there's something fishy behind that. The next guy he ends up tracking down, who ends up being this very wealthy guy who lives downtown in the city where Robert and the main character live, and he ends up meeting with him for lunch, ends up asking him about Amelia, explains his supernatural situation, and then ends up inviting that same guy over to the Christmas Eve party that's supposed to be held very soon within the next few days. And that's why Robert is meeting with the main character. He wants to invite the main character to come and join him for this Christmas Eve, basically at spending a night within room 12 in the 2nd floor of this boutique Christmas hotel to see the truth, to kind of be like backup, to find out what might have happened regarding Amelia, what's the situation behind these supernatural encounters and phenomena, and to see if there's actually something genuinely happening or if Robert was just being paranoid and superstitious. And that's essentially the story without me giving too much away. There is a really intense, really disturbing, crazy-ass climax with some fantastic descriptions by the author Lansdale. But I want to leave that to you guys to maybe read and check it out. Again, ask for this book as a gift, see if you can get it, and then try to read it for yourselves. This story is absolutely fantastic. I love the idea of the ghost not being your typical ghost story. It's kind of like a water demons situation from Are You Afraid of the Dark? Or if you've seen the original Creepshow movie, there's a segment called Something to Tide You Over, involving some waterlogged ghosts later towards the climax. That's sort of the descriptions and ideas you get with the ghost involving this story. The descriptions that Joe R. Lansdale gives as to the monster, as to the creature, and some of the experiences and things that happen within this hotel room are hair-raising. They're really scary. They'll leave you frightened and paranoid. I mean, it is some terrifying stuff, man. And reading this story reminds me why a lot of the time, some of the best written horror stories are supernatural and ghost stories. There's just something creepy about them. I don't know. Something resonates with me. It gives me goosebumps. It makes me freaked out. And I just love reading this story. I mean, it embodies the Christmas spirit. You got Christmas parties, you got holiday spirit. But the story is so eerie, so creepy. It has good atmosphere. It has good tension. It's intense. And it's really genuinely terrifying and scary. And if you want a good idea as to how prolific and how well done an author Joe R. Lansdale is, I suggest again you get this book as a gift, you read it, and I can genuinely promise you it'll resonate with you. It'll creep you out, it'll leave you checking the dark corners of your room, maybe checking your closet, and particularly alert when it comes around time for Christmas Eve, wherever you may be. That's all I got for today. I'd probably give this story an 8.5 out of 10. It is a very good short story, and I highly recommend it. If you guys like this video, feel free. A free way to support me is to hit that subscribe button down below, hit that like button, and most importantly, comment down below. Leave me something positive, leave me something nice. Otherwise, if you have had the pleasure of reading the story, let me know your thoughts down below. And if you've had the pleasure of getting your hands on this book and reading it, let me know after you get a chance to read it. And most importantly, stay tuned for more content to come, as I have more stuff planned for this month break that I have for winter before my next semester starts. Goodbye, deuces, and most importantly, take care.
Arrivederci.